Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at what you might call the margin of error.
Right.
Specifically, what happens when really ambitious plans just completely overlook one single deadly detail. We're unpacking two accounts from Mr. Ballin today.
Yeah, we have one involving a romantic gesture in Japan and a historical expedition in Central Africa. Both of them end in tragedy, but for very, very different reasons.
It's a heavy topic, definitely, but it is a fascinating one. Our mission today is to basically explore how a lack of understanding, whether we're talking about physics or culture, can turn a celebration into an absolute nightmare.
Exactly. We're essentially looking at the difference between intent and reality. In both these cases, the people involved had a really clear vision, a surprise or a discovery, but they just completely failed to understand the fundamental laws of the environment they were operating in.
Let's start with the Japan case from 2011. This is about Risa Deura and her husband Hiroki. It's his birthday, and she wants to pull off this massive surprise inspired by a variety show called Arashi's Big Secret.
Right, and context is super important here. On this TV show, they pull pranks on celebrities using pitfall traps. It looks hilarious on screen, people falling into holes, confetti everywhere. Risa decides she's going to replicate this on a beach. She digs this massive hole, aiming to drop Hiroki in and then launch fireworks to celebrate.
So she's trying to reverse engineer a TV stunt in the real world. What does she actually miss?
The engineering itself. On a TV set, safety is the #1 priority. They use specialized styrofoam that just crumbles the instant you step on it. It ensures a straight feet-first drop.
Yeah.
But Risa obviously didn't have access to studio materials. She used a rigid plastic board, covered it with a blue tarp, and then piled all this heavy sand on top to camouflage it.
Wait, if the board is rigid, how does the trap actually work?
Well, it doesn't, or rather, it works like a seesaw, not a trapdoor. And this is that fatal miscalculation. It's pitch black on the beach. Keep in mind, this is 2011, so you don't really have ubiquitous smartphone flashlights yet.
Right, it's just dark.
Exactly. She rushes him to the spot. When they step on that rigid plastic, it doesn't break. It tilts.
So instead of dropping straight down,
They slide. They tumbled headfirst right into the hole. And this is where the physics of sand becomes truly terrifying. Because the board tilted, that heavy sand camouflage instantly slid down with them. It caused a localized avalanche.
it's buried them alive.
Instantly. And because they went in headfirst, they were upside down, pinned by the board and the weight of all that sand. Friends nearby heard a scream and then just silence. By the time they actually dug them out 30 minutes later, they had suffocated.
That is just horrifying. It really underscores that gap between TV physics and real-world physics.
Exactly. She treated a literal construction project like a prop design. She drastically underestimated the material weight and the mechanics of the drop.
So that's a huge failure to understand physical laws. Now, the second case seems to be a failure to understand social laws. We're jumping back to 1856 in Central Africa with Dr. Edward Vogel.
Vogel is such a fascinating character. He's a German map maker who vanishes in the Kingdom of Abasheer. For 20 years, he's this European legend, the lost explorer. Eventually, another explorer named Gustav Nachtigall goes to find out what happened.
And it's not a simple investigation, right?
Yeah.
The locals are terrified to talk about him.
Completely silent. Nachtigall realizes he can't just go in and demand answers from King Ali, so he improvises. He forges a letter from Vogel's elderly father, begging for his son's journals just to have closure before he dies.
That is a really smart play, using empathy to bypass the fear.
It worked flawlessly. King Ali was moved. He allows a guard to take Nachtigall to a mountain and finally reveal the truth. Vogel had been executed, but not for spying and not for trespassing on sacred ground, even though he actually did both of those things.
What was the actual charge then?
To put it bluntly, eggs.
Eggs.
It sounds absurd to us, but this is where the fatal miscalculation comes in again. In Abasheer, eggs were an incredibly rare, precious resource. Vogel, however, had a delicate stomach and totally refused to eat the local grain-based diet. He demanded eggs at every single meal.
So he was basically demanding the equivalent of caviar for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Worse, he was depleting the king's personal supply. To Vogel, this was just a dietary restriction. To the king and the locals, this was a display of grotesque greed and disrespect. He was literally eating the wealth of his hosts while turning his nose up at their culture.
And that got him killed.
The king ordered him beaten to death. It's a brutal reminder that cultural ignorance can be just as deadly as a physical trap. Vogel assumed his needs superseded local scarcity. He refused to adapt, and that arrogance cost him his life.
It's a striking parallel when you look at them side by side. Risa died because she didn't understand the materials she was standing on. Vogel died because he didn't understand the culture he was living in.
Both cases completely boil down to a lack of situational awareness. Whether it's a viral prank or a massive expedition, we often enter situations assuming our home rules apply, that physics works like it does on TV, or that food is just a commodity.
It definitely makes you look at modern travel and social media stunts differently.
It does. It prompts a really difficult question for you to mull over. In a world where you can Google absolutely anything or fly anywhere tomorrow, are we losing the ability to assess actual risk versus our perceived reality?
Something to really think about before you plan your next big surprise or trip. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.